Great pleasure to be here. Thank you, Alan. I'd like to thank 21 people who have also contributed us to be here. We're going to be speaking quickly, strongly. We might be speaking in certitudes, but non-dogmatically. So whenever it is, think maybe, could be. We like to be free in the sharing of this information as neuro-semantic art, artists, so to speak. I'm going to dive straight in. We have a whole background I don't want to go into now. Harmala, the plant of Egypt, the shamanic plant of the Somas of the Vedas, that contains the harmine in Beta-stereopsis capi and the harmaline of Beta-stereopsis capi, as well as another molecule, pinoline, the active selective monoamine oxidase inhibitor, has been studied very specifically in terms of leukemia. Pagunum harmala wild rue, Ruta silvestris, as it's also known, some people in America more as a Syrian rue, contains the harmine molecule, the ayahuasca molecule. And so these studies with leukemia are significant in terms of the future medicinal revolution. I think the present shamanic congregation is a deja vu, so to speak, of future medicine, of the new science. In the background, we have the Sierpinski triangle, which is the frequency cascade that is established by 8 cycles per second that occurs to be the nuclear magnetic resonance of the harmine and the harmaline and the pinoline molecule. It's a very important frequency, 8 cycles per second. This is what the DNA is right now replicating on to produce every molecule of DNA in the body. 250 replications of 8 hertz per DNA molecule in 1 second. 8 cycles per second is released from healers all over the world that have been analyzed, treating water, the projected lasers through their hands, from their neocortexes, 8 cycles per second. So this study, which is done with another plant, ayahuasca, but containing the same molecules as ayahuasca, having very similar, if not identical effects to ayahuasca, has shown in 2 in vitro procedure studies that leukemia cells had their growth inhibited. This was done in mice. Looking specifically at P388 leukemia cells, which were put into rats, implanted leukemia cells. Also the L1210 leukemia cell. What they found in the studies was that seeds of Pagunum harmala, that is ayahuasca's eastern brother, the Soma Raja plant of the Vedas, which we have botanically identified as the king, Soma, the king plant that unifies the 107 other plants, psychedelic, entheogenic, medicinal plants of Rigveda Mandala 1097, unifies their spectrums of information. And the molecules contained in most of those different plants are DMT related, or ephedrine related, or trimethoxyamphetamine related. When you look at calamus' natural form, calamus is one of the 108 plants mentioned in Rigvedic Mandala 10, Pine 97, which are said to be brought from the stars as extraterrestrial or extratemporal or extraspatial representations of the most primordial goddess principles of the universe that were there before the gods. That is what the Rigveda relates, that it was brought down by a transductive shamanic lens or vehicle, a UFO, which we call a unified field object, the shamanic lens, the interface vehicle that unifies all polarities, coming down and bringing these 107 plants. So the extract of Puguna Parmala, which means parmaline and carmine, extracted with ethanol. They found that in the assay, the inhibition of the P388 colony-forming units, or CFUs, decreases greater than 98%. So there's a greater than 98% reduction of colony-forming units of leukemia. That is, leukemia is caused by 98% by harmine and carmeline with our objective studies. That applies to ayahuasca, because harmine, carmeline, phenylalanine all have the same nuclear magnetic resonance foundation of about 8 cycles per second. We've done the detailed analysis of this nuclear magnetic resonation studies in our book, The Soma Conspiracy, which we don't have here to sell. 33%, 300 milligrams per kilogram of the extract, 33% reversal of leukemia. And this is in an external Petri dish. Here's the source underneath. So here you have a scientific study where you put the external leukemia agent saturated with the extract of ayahuasca, Soma huasca, as we call it. Leukemia stopped by 98% and reversed by 36%. We have a friend, Ananda Bosman, who had leukemia about 11 years ago. So and I gave her this data, so she decided to drink the Soma huasca 3 times a week. She did that for about a month. And then she took an ecstatic substance and danced all night and went back. The leukemia was gone. 7 years later, she SMS'd me and said, I'm in an Austrian hospital and I'm soon not going to walk because I have multiple sclerosis. And they just scanned all of the scar tissue in my cerebellum. And then I said, well, Ananda, remember, 7 years before, you had leukemia. And you acted as a shaman. You used your starship lens, the lens of uniting all polarities, with your sound. The sound that would bring you into your body. You used your compassionate heart vehicle 3 times a week with the Soma huasca, and you treated yourself from an incurable disease. Why don't you do that now? That night, she had some dreams, psychedelic dreams. She had a flashback. She was flying in a Soma huasca-like state over some high mountains, and she saw her nervous system. She saw her neurons. She saw them geometrically. Her projected body had enormous hands, and with her hands she patted on those geometrical patterns of her nervous system, of her neurons. The next day she was going to go for the next scan, and all of the scar tissue has gone. I mentioned her name, she's given me permission. Anyone can check this out, this is objective data. The scientists in Austria are completely puzzled. She's a wonder case that way. But we have now then the anecdotal evidence that 8 cycles per second molecules of shamanism stop and reverse leukemia, as well as these science studies. So we are on the medicinal way here, and cancer is a big part of what we need to treat these days. Later on, I'd like to get to some studies that shows that protection from radiation, gamma radiation in mice has also occurred with this specific plant. So it's not only the shamanic use of these particular molecules, but the medicinal form, that is 5 to 10 milligrams, can offer forms of protection. But there are certain precautions. We have done studies in the 90s also what we call endohuasca. Endohuasca is endogenous ayahuasca, that's self-produced ayahuasca, where the pineal gland and other parts of the body synthesizes the direct sister of baby stereosis capi, harmine, and harmaline, which is, harmine is 5-methoxy tetrahydrobetacarboline. The pineal gland produces 6-methoxy tetrahydrobetacarboline. Its near sister, one atom group different, having the same nuclear magnetic resonance. That needs to go up to 300 milligrams. So we do this in sensory deprivation, that is 60 days of complete and total darkness. In 1992, I developed an enzymatic model with vitamins, minerals, in the pathway of the metabolism of tryptophan, the essential amino acid, into phenylene and into 5-methoxy DMT. And usually, from the hundreds of pilots that we brought through these endohuasca experiments, including some doctors, within 5 days you have the Chodraponga-like effect, the 5-methoxy DMT effect, by further nutrients, that is high tryptophan dosage, B vitamins of certain kinds, minerals, zinc, and so forth and so on. And the use of guarana at the key time in certain exercises. On the 8th day, we produce DMT effects of about 60% of the students. So if these plants become completely illegal, even if there is a police state that genetically modifies all of nature, you still have yourself and the dark in which to do these experiments, and they work